Hey everyone, this is just a quick video to guide you through the second assignment for Module 2. So you already completed the Determining Source Credibility assignment, and now we are going into the Using Different Sources of Information and Research assignment. So by clicking on this, it'll take you to the submission page. You can go to the guidelines and rubric. Now, there is no template for this assignment, so you're just going to create a Word document. And honestly, I would just go ahead and copy and paste all of these sentences into the document and let that be your template. And so you just answer the questions, right? So you're talking about the STEM related issue that you chose. So you're going to talk about what's the value of using different sources of information to research a topic. So for instance, like what's the value of using a peer-reviewed source versus, like a secondary source or a tertiary source. And so I would go ahead and answer, why is it important to use different sources of information? Why is it important to consider whether different sources present similar or different conclusions? So, right, if every source you find is kind of saying, yes, this is a problem, then that's good for validation, right? Whereas if you have like conflicting information, that's where you need to kind of think about, maybe this, needs more research, or this is a controversial topic. And then talking about, for number 2, the importance of determining the credibility of a source. Like, why is that important? Because, especially with the internet, anybody can say anything, right? So how do we determine if something is credible versus if it's not? And then 3 through 5 is talking about bias. So to answer 1 and 2, I would recommend going to your module resources that I seem to have. I thought I had the content open, but I did not. So I would go into your module 2 guide to help you answer this. So for question 1 and 2, all the information right here is going to help you answer the first 2 questions. And then 3, 4, and 5 can be found in the bias section. And then question 2, why to use different sources of information, you can find the answers in here. So the guidelines will help you. There's also a announcement that talks about bias, determining, how you can determine if like the media that you're consuming is biased. There's a link here that you can click on that has really helpful information as well. So, excuse me. So going back to this, going into question 3, describe how bias is represented in the sources you have gathered so far. So looking at, the 3 to 5 sources that you have, you're going to try to figure out if they have a biased point of view. So how do the authors show their point of view? What evidence are they using to support the claims that they're making? Does the kind of evidence used suggest confirmation bias? If you don't know about confirmation bias, that is something that's going to be in the announcements. It's also in the module resources as well. So whose perspective is represented in the source? Does it suggest that there's experimenter bias? And then what is the relationship between the researcher and the financial sponsor of the study? So what that one basically means is that you need to try to figure out who funded the study that was done for your source. And so that's going to be, that's where you really are going to have to kind of go down the rabbit hole and make sure that you find, basically like follow the money, right? So for instance, like whenever there was papers released about how smoking can cause cancer, there were the smoking companies would fund their own research saying that cigarettes didn't cause cancer. So that suggests like a funding bias, right? because they're funding research that's showing that their product is favorable, whereas all these independent, studies are showing that no, cigarettes can cause cancer. And then for 4, describe how one's personal biases could affect the interpretation of a source. So how could your personal bias about the topic affect the interpretation? So so on my topic on fracking, I have a personal bias because there's fracking wells in my community. I don't like them. They're noisy. They've created earthquakes. They have created water pollution. So, that's something that I am personally biased about. And then for number 5, you want to explain the possible ways that we can reduce bias when researching a topic. And like I said, there will be more information about the different biases and things like that in the class announcements that can kind of help you. But let me know if you have any questions.